I'm James Walker, and this is Real Talk, Real People. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us again this week. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving and are ready for the Christmas season, which has just sprung upon us. And, the expression is, "'tis the season." Well, it appears that 'tis the season for theft. I'm sure many of you, and if you tune into this show, I'm sure many of you tune into the news also, and it is no secret that it is smash and grab by mobs. I mean, it's just become insane. I mean, it really is. But I want to talk a little bit about what is so confusing about crime stats that we get. According to the FBI, violent crime is down here in Connecticut. But I know if you're like me and you turn on the evening news, all you hear about is shootings, people being killed, bodies being found. So I'm not. It's always confusing when they talk about violent crime is down, and if you read the Washington Post will say violent crime is down, but it is not down in disadvantaged neighborhoods. And since well, I guess I don't live in a what you call a disadvantaged neighborhood, but I certainly live in an urban environment, and crime touches you no matter what when you live in an urban environment. But I want to go back, I guess, about maybe 7 or 8 months ago when we talk about crime, and this is one of those stupid crimes. And I'm sure you guys remember a man. He was about 50 years old at Walmart in New Haven, and the employees there thought that he was stealing stuff, which he was, and they tried to stop him, and he ran out of the store. He's 50 years old. I don't know how far he thought he was getting. He's 50. He can't run but so far, or so fast for that matter. But anyway, he managed to make it to his car, which was a Volvo. And by that time, police arrived on the scene, and they had to really take him out of the car, which is really ridiculous. And he starts rummaging through his pockets to show them what he had stolen. And what he stole was underwear and t-shirts. Hmm. A 50-year-old man driving a Volvo goes into Walmart and steals underwear and t-shirts. I mean, this is just stupid, but you know, crime is just and theft is just rampant these days, and for a lot of people, I have to say that it appears that it is paying off. And it's just one of those insane thoughts because we're all raised to believe that crime doesn't pay, but it is certainly paying for a lot of people, and it's also costing us, the consumer, a lot of money. I think probably about here in Connecticut in Stonington, you had those guys just load up TVs on like this. Whatever, for lack of a better expression, wagon, and they just rolled it right out of the door. You know, with employees trying to stop them, they didn't really care. They just took this stuff, loaded it up, and off they went. I read this morning that we had not here, this was in another state, where they did this smash and grab robbery at a Home Depot and just, you know, stole hundreds of tools and tool sets and tools and so forth, and right in front of employees, customers, and so forth, loaded up their truck and left. I'm sure everyone saw the soap powder. I guess there was about 10 of them, and they were at I'm not sure which store they were at, but they loaded up these big gallon sized soap powders like Tide and Gain. And I remember when I saw it, I kind of said, wow, this seems kind of stupid, really. Because if you think, let's say they had 100, they stole 100 gallons of this soap detergent, and I know that in the store it sells for 10.99, 11.99. Well, to sell it on the black market, you got to sell it for $8, say, to get people interested. And I was thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, if you have 100 and you sell it at $8, that's like $800 that has to be split between all those people who were involved in that crime. I don't know about to you folks, but that just does not seem worth, you know, the possible, the negative outcome. I mean, if you get caught and arrested and you go to jail, this is what you're going to jail over? I don't, it just really just seems very stupid to me. But, and I don't know where people get the nerve to do that. I don't have the nerve to do that. I have to be frank. In some cases, I wish I did, but I have to tell you, I might have the nerve to steal it, but I certainly don't have the nerve to suffer the consequences, which is having my freedom taken away from me and all the rest of it. It's just stupid. It's not worth it to me. And I found that out when I was about 8, 9 years old. And my mother sent me to the store to buy dinner. And for us and my family back in those days, we there was no refrigerator full of food. There was, you bought meals as money came in, and money came in, and I went to the store to buy dinner. And I really was in love with ring dings. And I didn't have enough money left over from what my mother gave me in order to buy to buy a ring ding. So I stole it, and I thought I was getting away with it until I tried to leave the store. And in those days, they had the security guard was not in security clothing; they were just in regular clothes, and they took me into this back room. Now, understand, I'm only 9, 8, 9, or 10, one or the other, and it was really embarrassing. They searched me, they got the ring ding, they contacted my mother. She had to come up. And so, really, that taught me a lesson. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it for me to steal, but that certainly does seem to be the case these days. It's just brazen. And when you look at crime that way, and regardless to how you feel about law enforcement, you have to understand that they really must have a tough time. Think about it. These people are so brazen and they are so unconcerned with being arrested that they just do it in broad daylight, just walk right out. And of course, employees can't do anything. They're instructed really not to do anything because it could, number one, potentially cost them their lives. And not only that, there's another reason why stores don't want you to do this. I mean, if one of these employees were to attempt to stop one of these thefts and get hurt in the process, of course, that's a lawsuit against their employer. So that is also another reason. But I don't know. It just seems so ridiculous here that this crime is going on like it is, and I don't know what the solution is, and I don't think anyone else does. But everything can't be. There are a lot of reports that it's about the pandemic, and the pandemic has led to this, the pandemic has led to that, and it's true. You can't deny that a lot of people are suffering because of the pandemic. A lot of people have a lot less money. They lost a lot of money. So I can certainly understand. That the pandemic has caused some problems and financial problems in people's life, but it has not led them to theft. That is, to me, just an excuse for people. You know, that's just an excuse. Nothing leads you to theft. Certainly not soap powder. I could see if you was stealing a steak or something like that, but you're stealing soap powder and lots of it. So, but I also understand that this is like a regional thing, and they actually have things broken down to different levels, such as like they consider level one a single person who just steals in their hometown, for example, here in New Haven, and they don't steal anywhere else. And they take those thefts or what they steal and they turn it over to a fence. And that fence, in turn, turns it over to another fence and it goes up the chain. And then they have what they call level two, and those are statewide. And those are the thieves who I guess in the cases with the soap powder and the TVs, that took place in different cities and towns throughout Connecticut. Those are the state thieves, and they in turn steal, turn it over to a fence, and that fence again just continues to turn this product that they stole over to other people until they get it out into the community to sell. And it's the same thing with level three, which are regional thieves. And they are the ones who I guess would be stealing in Connecticut, say, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. And again, they turn this stuff over to a fence, and that fence turns it over to someone else, and they distribute it for sale. And I was really surprised to find out that some of this stuff can be found at flea markets, and at those sidewalk sales. And I wondered, how do you get away with that? How do you say, if somebody has a sidewalk sale of, they got 50 containers of soap powder, how were they able to get away with that? The same with the people in the flea market. How are they able to get away with that? But I guess the police just can't assume that because they have that amount that they are, that they are thieves. So it really is just really crazy the way theft works. It's just insane that police are not able to do anything about this and stop it. But I think we all know our laws really need some beefing up in some areas, and in other areas they really need to be lessened, so to speak. And so much for my phone with some of my notes on it, by the way. But I also want to talk a little bit about juvenile crime. And, I really wasn't a big fan of the juvenile justice law that was passed here a few years ago. And not because, well, I felt two ways about it. Number one, I think everyone should have a second chance. And I do agree that some of these juveniles are just hanging out doing stupid things, and because that's what boys do, they do stupid things, and men too, men, they just do stupid things. So I was really all for not actually condemning a kid 16, 17 years old, and having them have this big blemish on their records, therefore affecting everything from jobs to credit to to just everything. So I felt that in that sense, that was a good law. But that law also hinged on the fact that juveniles did not understand the consequences of their actions because their brain isn't fully developed. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the age 22, 23, something like that. And I felt that was just, to me, that's just hogwash. I knew when I was 16 years old if I was doing something wrong. And so I may not have been able to understand the full consequences, but I did know that if I went in and robbed a store, chances were that I was going to jail. I did know that. Maybe I didn't understand what that meant in terms of being there and how it would affect my life later on down the road. But the idea that I'm 16 or 17 years old and I did not recognize that this was a serious crime and something that I should be doing. It was ridiculous. And we had a lot of people who were against this law, and some, since it's been passed, are really calling out for change. And I talked with State Rep Ernie Newton about, I guess it's been about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, when Bridgeport was considering a curfew because juvenile crime had gotten so bad. And I personally was just against that. I just didn't think it made any sense at all. I mean, realistically, how do you tell a 17-year-old from an 18-year-old? And therefore, you would be stopping that 18-year-old person for no reason. He's 18. He is legally able to be out beyond the curfew. So I just thought it was a really ridiculous potential law, and one that was really discriminatory because that gave police the right to stop and search and all the rest of that anybody that they thought looked younger than 18. So I really thought that was really ridiculous. However, Ernie Newton did have some valid points when he said, look, these young people are out here, committing these crimes knowing that, nothing can happen to them. So I just want to take a minute here and just go back and give you a minute or two of what Ernie Newton was talking about at that time because it is so relevant to what is going on now.
And I think with what's going on now, with how the laws have changed for our youthful young people, the city council felt it necessary to implement this because if we save one life, at least we tried to do something. And I don't have to tell you, with the senseless shootings and killings, a lot of these children are now like 12, 13, 14, 15, and they know the law. They know that if they're caught, they will be released to their parents. And this is what police are saying to us. So whether I like it or not, from what the police are telling us, we have 13, 14, 15-year-old kids stealing cars because they know the law can't do anything to them but smack them on the wrist and turn them over to their parents. They know. Kids know the law.
And Ernie turned out to be right here. In fact, right now there are calls across Connecticut for the juvenile justice law to be revamped, and I think they're onto something. It's when you're talking about someone who is 16 or 17 years old and they know they can steal a car and get away with it, commit a certain crime and get away with it, I'm not so sure that after a while that doesn't become a habit. And when you have something like that, it can lead to more bad behavior. If it's not checked, it it can lead to more bad behavior. So I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do in terms of the juvenile justice law, but I do think that some of those laws need to be looked at again, and part of it needs to be revamped. We just can't have people committing crime because they know that they are in that untouchable class. As to these people who are engaged in these flash mobs who are doing these brazen thefts, I'm not sure what the answer is, other than the fact there are two things we can do here. Number one, these big chain stores, they need to hire their own security. They just need to hire their own security who are authorized to carry weapons and discharge their weapons. That's what they need to do. And what we need to do is put more cops on the streets. I think that's real clear that we need more cops on the streets to stop this type of theft that is just going on like crazy. And something I didn't mention earlier is that while FBI stats show violent crime is down in Connecticut, if you can believe that. It also shows that property crime has soared. So that is just something to think about. Anyway, I'm James Walker. This is Real Talk, Real People. Thank you very much for joining us again. You folks have a good week. We'll talk again next week.